Hello, I'm Alon Burstein, visiting assistant professor in the Department of Political Science and Israel Institute Fellow at the University of California, Irvine, here bringing you the summary of the last 24 hours of the Israel-Hamas war. It is currently the evening of January 20th, 2024 in the United States, the morning of January 21st, 2024 in the Middle East. Starting with the hostage situation, the Salahadin Brigades, who are the military wing of the Popular Resistance Front, which is the third biggest terror organization in the Gaza Strip, published a video today of an Israeli hostage, Ohad Yahalomi. Ohad Yahalomi was shot on October 7th and then kidnapped to the Gaza Strip. In the video, he is shown receiving medical attention, then asking Netanyahu to stop looking for trouble and to release whoever needs to be released in order to bring all the hostages home. The IDF reported there is serious concern for Ohad Yahalomi's life. That is usually the message that the IDF puts out when it considers or is fearful due to intelligence that someone has been killed in captivity. However, there's no indication beyond that video that he is in fact killed. That video was published today. Other news, there's still no indication whether the medicines that were transferred during the medical deal several days ago actually reached the hostages. Qatar still says it has no way to confirm if these medicines in fact did reach the hostages. According to the deal, Prime Minister Netanyahu got assurances from the mediators, i.e. Qatar, that the medicines will reach the hostages. However, no details were published about how these assurances would be transferred. Right now in Israel, there is no such assurance. Other news related to the hostages, there are reports of ongoing back-channel negotiations, however, that these negotiations are completely stalled. According to the different reports, Hamas is steadfast in its position that it will only release hostages in exchange for a complete ceasefire, an IDF withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, and international guarantees that it will remain in power in the Gaza Strip. This into itself signals somewhat of a change in the organization's position. Until now, in different negotiations, part of the bones of contention that led to no progress being made was Hamas's insistence that Marwan Barghouti or other top Palestinian prisoners would be released, and Israel was refusing. If in fact the organization is not even discussing which prisoners would be released, but just saying only a complete ceasefire and IDF withdrawal, that is a different position and basically changing the organization's priorities. Somewhat confirming this, Musa Abu Marzouk, one of the top leaders of Hamas, today gave an interview to RT Network in Arabic, in which he was asked about Russia's request to release Russian citizens that are held in hostage. He rejected the request, saying that Hamas doesn't care who the citizens are, they're all there to kill Palestinians, and he added, and I'm quoting, "We are not talking about releasing hostages until after a complete ceasefire in Gaza." Relating to this, a senior Israeli official was quoted in the Ynet news agency, stating that there is hope in Israel that Hamas will return to focusing on prisoners and accept a long-term truce and release of Palestinian prisoners as the IDF deepens its control over southern parts of the Gaza Strip. Moving on to the ongoing fighting in the Gaza Strip, this is one of the first days since the war began that there were no rockets or mortars fired from the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours. Regarding the fighting in the Gaza Strip, in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, in Gaza City, there were reports of IDF activity in the Zaytun neighborhood of the Gaza City. According to reports, IDF raided a weapons manufacturing compound, uncovering dozens of machines that were used to make short and long-range rockets and mortars. These included machines producing rocket fuel, warheads, launching site equipment, and explosives. The IDF reported that the equipment that was destroyed could produce over 800 rockets. In the southern parts of Gaza City, still in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, near the Netzarim corridor, substantial gun battles were reported. Other IDF activity was reported in the area, as well as attack helicopters attacking different Hamas RPG units. There were ongoing battles reported in the central parts of the Gaza Strip as well, however very little information came out today. In the southern parts of the Gaza Strip, in Han Yunis, the IDF reported a major operation engaging Hamas's Eastern Han Yunis Brigade. According to reports, major gun battles erupted throughout the city, and attack tunnels were destroyed. Other tunnel entrances were also discovered, and lookout posts were destroyed by the IDF. Launching sites were also located and destroyed. Other news from the Gaza Strip. Palestinians reported that the IDF drops thousands of leaflets throughout Han Yunis and Rafah with pictures of the hostages that are held by Hamas, imploring Palestinians to report any knowledge about them to the military. The leaflets showed pictures of the different hostages, and at the bottom there was an inscription stating, "Do you want to return home? Notify the army if you recognize someone," with different contact information on how Palestinians can notify the IDF if they recognize any of the hostages. Other news, the IDF published photos today of 5 holding cells that were located in tunnels in Han Yunis, with evidence that hostages were held in them. The tunnels are reportedly 20 meters deep, and the IDF estimates 20 different hostages were held in them in different times, and the IDF published a lot of pictures of the materials that were uncovered in these holding cells. No hostages were recovered, however, in this operation. Other news, more reports came out today, including in CNN and NBC, that the IDF has been searching cemeteries in the Gaza Strip and unearthing bodies, taking them back to Israel. The IDF confirmed these reports stating that it is only operating based on intelligence and is searching for possible hostages that may have been buried in the different cemeteries, and that if the bodies are confirmed they do not belong to hostages, they are returned in a respectful manner. Other news, there was a large report in the New York Times today surveying both how the IDF operation in the Gaza Strip is going, where it's going, and also bringing a lot of quotes and reports from senior IDF officials regarding their criticism of the political establishment and how the operation is actually being planned out. Regarding the actual fighting in the Gaza Strip, the New York Times reported that as the IDF focuses more down south in the Gaza Strip and lowers the intensity in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, so 25,000 of the 50,000 IDF soldiers that were stationed in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip have been pulled back, leaving large areas out of IDF control. The report quotes several Israeli sources stating that in Gaza City and in Beit Hanun, Hamas operatives, including police officers and other social service providers, have been seen coming out of hiding and beginning to restore their administration control in an attempt to begin to regain control in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip. Other parts of the New York Times report analyzed IDF advancements. According to the report, it cited IDF operational plans, stating that the IDF had intended to have full operational control over Khan Yunis and Rafah by the end of 2023, and that the operation is proceeding a lot slower than the initial planning. The article also reports serious frustration of commanders surrounding the civilian situation in the Gaza Strip, citing 4 senior IDF officers who remain anonymous, who expressed deep frustration with a lack of strategic day-after thinking in the political establishment, and they all expressed their fear that this lack of strategic thinking endangers the successes that the IDF has already achieved. All 4 also state that the aims of the war contradict each other, i.e. destroying Hamas and retrieving all the hostages alive. 3 of them specifically stated that a hostage deal would be the fastest way to retrieve any live hostages, and that the ongoing situation is endangering the hostages. The IDF spokesperson responded to this report, stating, and I quote, "The words brought the name of senior IDF officers are unfamiliar to us and do not reflect the IDF's position." Regarding casualties, no IDF soldiers reported killed in the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours. The number of IDF soldiers killed in the Gaza Strip since the invasion began remains 194. 13 IDF soldiers were reported injured in the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours. The Palestinian Health Ministry is reporting 165 Palestinians that were killed in the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours, bringing the total number of Palestinians that were killed in the Gaza Strip since the war began to 24,927. 62,338 Palestinians are reported injured in the Gaza Strip, and there are still several thousand that are buried under the rubble and presumed dead. Moving on to the humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip, telecommunications are continuously being restored in the Gaza Strip after a week-long blackout that was a result of, according to the Paltel company, the main telecommunications company in the Gaza Strip, a result of the collapse of power lines and communication lines in Khan Yunis. After the week-long blackout that included phone services, cell phones, and internet, power is gradually being restored. No more information was given about the statement that was made from the White House several days ago that the White House thanked Israel for its agreement to begin allowing flour to enter the Gaza Strip through the Ashdod port. There's no information given about this, neither in the IDF website or in the UN websites or in the Palestinian Red Crescent, so right now, unclear what this deal includes and if this includes the entrance of more humanitarian aid trucks or something else. Other news, the IDF published today a summary report of the amount of aid trucks that have entered the Gaza Strip since the war began. According to the report, 9,500 trucks entered the Gaza Strip since October 22nd. These included 5,328 trucks of food, 1,106 trucks carrying medical equipment, 902 trucks carrying water, 1,393 trucks carrying shelter equipment, and 785 trucks carrying mixed goods. The IDF also put out a statement saying, "Our war is with Hamas, not with the people of Gaza." Relating to this, UNRWA today published a statement saying to meet minimum requirements of the population in the Gaza Strip, including avoiding hunger, there is need for upwards of 800 trucks to enter each day with carrying humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip for the next 3 months. Related to this, no humanitarian aid trucks entered the Gaza Strip in the last 24 hours. As I stated yesterday, this is part of a deal that was brokered between Israel, the United States, Egypt, and the United Nations in order to allow expedited distribution of humanitarian aid on the Gazan side. There was an agreement that no trucks would enter today in order to allow the distribution of goods that passed several days ago. Moving on to the West Bank, no reports were made in the last 24 hours regarding how many Palestinians were arrested in different operations in the West Bank in the last 24 hours. Regarding political news, after several days of delay, the Israeli cabinet is due to meet tomorrow morning and is expected to approve sending the Palestinian Authority tax money through Norway in order to reach the Palestinian Authority. So I'll just remind that this is an ongoing problem since the war broke out. Israel collects upwards of 200 million shekels for the Palestinian Authority each month, and usually transfers them to the Palestinian Authority. This is tax money that results from negotiations and deals back from the Oslo Accords. However, since the war broke out, Israel refused to transfer this tax money, saying that it will end up in the hands of the Gaza Strip. Israel offered, after a lot of U.S. pressure, to transfer the money, only the portion that goes to the West Bank. However, the Palestinian Authority refused. Now, after, again, a lot of U.S. pressure, Israel is expected to agree to this deal to transfer the money to Norway, and then Norway will only transfer the portion that goes to the West Bank to the Palestinian Authority. It remains to be seen, both if Israel agrees to this and if the Palestinian Authority agrees to only accept that portion of the money instead of all the money that is due as a result of the agreements. Moving on to the northern parts of Israel, southern parts of Lebanon, rockets and missiles were sent from Lebanon targeting the northern parts of Israel today. These targeted the areas of Hardov, Zarit. There were also rockets sent towards the western Galilee, areas of Adamit, Arab al-Ramsha, and Alon. Regarding IDF retaliation, the IDF reported that it attacked villages of Al-Adaisa and Hula in southern Lebanon, targeting Hezbollah infrastructure, lookout posts, and different launching sites. Al-Manar, which is a Hezbollah affiliate, also reported that the IDF carried out attacks in the Kila village, as well as in the area of Sichim, Al-Jabin, Itaron, and Tir Kherfa. Hezbollah units also reportedly were attacked in the Hardov area with tank fire. Other news, Ali Muhammad Hadraj, who is a senior official in the connection between the Iranian Revolutionary Guards and Hezbollah, was assassinated today in a drone attack against his car in the Barzuria area near Tzur in Lebanon. 3 more people were killed in this attack. There are conflicting reports regarding whether Hadraj is a member of the Quds force of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards or a Hezbollah operative. Different sources cited different things. Either way, all the reports converge on the fact that he was in charge of intelligence assistance of Iran and Hezbollah given to Hamas, specifically related to electronic warfare and air defenses. Other news, the Washington Post reported today that Israel informed the United States that by the end of January, a diplomatic solution has to be found to the situation that is ongoing between Israel and Hezbollah, and if not, Israel is going to have to increase its attacks on Lebanon. The report emphasized that the end of the month is not a hard deadline. However, that is the expected timetable that Israel is putting forth. After that, it is going to start increasing its attacks against Hezbollah. Moving on to Syria, Yusuf Ahmed Zada, also known as Haj Sadek, was assassinated today in an attack in the Al-Mazah neighborhood of Damascus. Zada was reportedly an intelligence commander in the Quds force of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards and a close associate of Raza Mousavi, who was assassinated last month. According to reports, he was in charge of selecting U.S. targets that would be attacked in Syria and Iraq by the different militias. Syrian Human Rights Observatory stated that the building that he was attacked in was housing a meeting of pro-Iranian leaders and that 8 missiles were sent towards that building. Others killed will reportedly include Abu Muntazar, who was a leader of a pro-Iranian militia, and a Hezbollah operative known as Haj Yunus, who was in charge of ground weapon smuggling from Iran. Iran officially blamed Israel for this attack and threatened retaliation. Israel made no report. AP reported that the building that was attacked was completely destroyed and many others were also killed and injured. Moving on to some of the regional developments, the Islamic Resistance in Iraq, another pro-Iranian militia, claimed responsibility today for a missile attack against the U.S. Ain al-Assad base in Iraq. U.S. military confirmed this attack, and Saudi al-Hadith reported that 20 missiles were launched towards the base. Several U.S. troops were reported lately injured. Other news related to Yemen, another U.S. attack from the coalition was reported against Houthi surface-to-sea missiles. Reportedly, this attack occurred in the southern parts of Aden. Other news, Reuters published an analysis today of the Houthi military activity, citing that in addition to the Iranian Revolutionary Guards officers, Hezbollah officials are also present in Yemen, overseeing the Houthi attacks and offering other assistance, specifically weapons assembly and smuggling. This comes amidst other reports several days ago that Hezbollah officials were killed in some of the coalition's attacks that happened in Yemen. Moving on to some of the political and general trends, amidst the war and a lot of administrative arrests that are occurring, Israel, for the first time, is now on the list of top 10 countries with the most journalists arrested, according to a report published by the Committee to Protect Journalists in the World. Other news, Al-Akhbar reported today, quoting Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan, again stating that Saudi Arabia is open to normalization talks with Israel. However, this will only happen if it is part of a process to establish a Palestinian state. Other news, thousands of protesters took to the streets in Israel on Saturday night, calling for elections and protesting how the government is running the war. Other political news, lots of reports came in and lots of political developments regarding Netanyahu's statement that was made yesterday that Israel will control all territory in the future from the west of the Jordan River, and Biden's statement after his conversation with Netanyahu that stating that Netanyahu did not outright reject any option of a Palestinian state. NBC reported that some of Israel's biggest supporters in U.S. Congress, both Republican and Democrat, are losing their faith in the way Prime Minister Netanyahu is running the war amidst these statements that he makes. The reports say that Netanyahu is bleeding support, with 3 different congresspeople who describe themselves as Israeli supporters questioning if Netanyahu even has a strategy for how to end the war. The report stated that while others still express support for Israel and Netanyahu, many in key positions are starting to question their support in the U.S. administration. Amidst this, there was a report today that 18 senators have already joined in an initiative to require countries that receive military aid from the United States, specifically Israel, to adhere to U.S., international, and humanitarian laws. These reports responding to Netanyahu's statement that Israel will control all the area from the Jordan River essentially to the Mediterranean Sea, and the later Biden statement that Netanyahu did not actually reject a future Palestinian state, also relate to a lot of statements that were made today regarding the future of the Gaza Strip. In Israel, Finance Minister and leader of religious Zionism, Bezalel Smotrich, called upon the White House to release itself from concepts that led to the national catastrophe of Israel, i.e., to release itself from the idea that there will be a future Palestinian state. Minister of Culture, Miki Zohar from the Likud, stated that we will never give our hand to the establishment of a Palestinian state. Other Likud members also stated that no Palestinian state will ever be established. Palestinian Authority Chairman spokesperson Nabil Burstein stated that in response to Netanyahu's statements that essentially are a slap in the face of the United States should stop making overtures towards two-state solution and instead recognize the state of Palestine as a legitimate state. French Foreign Minister Stéphane Séjourné also stated that Palestinians have the right to sovereignty and a state. Netanyahu himself tried to put out clarifications after President Biden's statements that Netanyahu did not outright reject a Palestinian state, and Netanyahu put out 2 statements. The first one is which the Prime Minister's office put out clarifications, stating, and I quote, "Speaking to President Biden yesterday, Prime Minister Netanyahu reiterated his position that he has held for years. After destroying Hamas, Israel will have complete security control over the Gaza Strip and ensure that Gaza will not be a threat to Israel. This collides with the demand for Palestinian sovereignty." Later in the day, Netanyahu also put out a tweet from his own personal account, and which included the West Bank as well, stating, and I quote, "I will not compromise about complete Israeli control over the entire territory west of the Jordan River, which contradicts a Palestinian state." What we are seeing here is that on the one hand, Netanyahu is still trying to play to his base as the coalition in Israel becomes more and more shaky, and Netanyahu realizes that he will probably have to rely on the extreme right-wing elements within his coalition. He is still standing fast and saying, my aspirations for security control contradict the idea of a Palestinian state. However, in his statements, he did not actually say that what President Biden said is not true, because he's also trying to not anger the United States and alienate support in the United States, trying to sort of take this middle neutral ground, saying that what Israel wants contradicts the idea of a sovereign Palestinian state, however not openly saying that Israel is against what the United States wants. That is my report for the last 24 hours. I'll be back tomorrow.